I'm telling you right now, you need to leave this salon.
Leave? I booked the bridal suite. Today's my wedding day.
Officer, she paid in full. I have the receipt right here.
We received a complaint. She doesn't belong here.
Oh
Wait, are you serious?
On what grounds? I paid
You
weeks
people
ago.
always say that.
No way. Oh, hell no.
It's
I'm recording this.
The music was soft. The air smelled like hairspray and fresh flowers. White lace hung gently over the chair while a young black bride sat smiling at her reflection, until a police sergeant walked in, pointed at her, and said she had no right to be there. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. And if you love powerful real-life stories that expose truth and bring justice to light, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Her name was Naomi Ellis. She was 28 years old, smart, calm, a high school counselor, the kind of woman who always helped others before helping herself. Today was her wedding day. The beauty salon, Golden Touch Studio, was in downtown Oakridge. Naomi had booked the bridal suite 2 months earlier. She paid in full. She brought her own makeup artist. Her bridesmaids were laughing, holding coffee cups, talking about how she was about to become Mrs. Naomi Carter. No, not Carter. That name doesn't matter. What mattered was that she was happy. Her dress was hanging near the window, ivory silk, long train, perfect fit. Everything was on time. Until the door opened. The sound was loud, hard. Boots stepped across the tile floor. Everyone turned. A tall white man in uniform stood at the entrance. His badge read Sergeant Harold Whitman. His jaw was tight, his eyes cold. He looked around slowly like he was inspecting a crime scene. The salon owner, Clara Benson, rushed forward nervously. "Officer, can I help you?" she asked. Whitman didn't look at her. He pointed directly at Naomi. "That one," he said. "She needs to leave. Now." The room froze. Naomi blinked. "Excuse me?" Whitman stepped closer. "We received a report that you do not belong in this establishment. You are trespassing." The bridesmaids gasped. Clara shook her head quickly. "That's not true. She booked the bridal suite. I have the paperwork." Whitman's voice dropped lower. "Ma'am, I suggest you don't interfere." Naomi slowly stood up. She was wearing a white robe with bride stitched on the back in gold. "I paid for today," she said calmly. "You can check your system. I have receipts." Whitman's eyes hardened. "You people always have receipts," he muttered. The room went silent. Naomi felt her stomach twist. "What does that mean?" One bridesmaid asked. Whitman ignored her. "I'm giving you one warning," he said to Naomi. "Leave peacefully, or I will remove you." Naomi's heart started pounding. This could not be happening. Not today. "On what grounds?" she asked. Whitman crossed his arms. "The salon received a complaint that you were causing a disturbance." "That's a lie," Clara said. "No one complained." Whitman finally looked at her. "Ma'am, do you want to instruct an officer?" Clara stepped back. Naomi looked around the room. Every eye was on her. Her makeup artist stood frozen, brush still in hand. "This is my wedding day," Naomi said. Her voice shook slightly, but she stood tall. "You're humiliating me in front of my friends." Whitman's lips tightened. "If you don't leave, I'll arrest you." One bridesmaid pulled out her phone. Whitman noticed. "Put that away," he barked. "No," she said quietly. "You're not doing this without people seeing." Whitman stepped toward Naomi. "I've dealt with your kind before," he said under his breath. "You push limits. You think you can go wherever you want." Naomi's chest tightened. "My kind," she repeated. "You heard me." Clara rushed forward again, holding printed receipts. "Officer Whitman, please. She booked the VIP suite. Here's confirmation." He didn't even look at the paper. "I don't care what paper says," he replied. "I'm maintaining order." "There is no disorder," Naomi said. Whitman grabbed his radio. "I need backup at Golden Touch Studio," he said. "Non-compliant female refusing to vacate." Non-compliant female. Naomi felt heat rush to her face. "I'm not refusing anything," she said. "I'm asking for proof." Whitman stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You should be grateful we're not charging you for fraud." Her jaw dropped. "Fraud. You people always try to scam businesses," he said softly. The bridesmaid recording whispered, "Oh my God." 2 more officers arrived minutes later. Younger, quiet. They looked uncomfortable. Whitman pointed. "Escort her out." Naomi looked at Clara. "Please tell him." Clara's voice shook. She belongs here. Whitman's face turned red. Last chance. Naomi slowly picked up her purse. I will leave, she said quietly. But this isn't over. Whitman smirked. Sure it isn't. As she walked toward the door, still in her white bridal robe, customers in the front lobby stared. Some whispered. Someone laughed nervously. Outside, the summer sun felt harsh. One officer gently guided her to the sidewalk. You're not under arrest, he said softly. But you need to leave the property. My wedding is in 3 hours, she whispered. He looked away. Her bridesmaids rushed outside moments later. One was crying. One was angry. One kept recording. Whitman stepped out last. And as she comes back, Clara asked from the doorway. Whitman didn't hesitate. Then we take her in. Naomi stood there on the sidewalk, holding her robe closed, hair half done, makeup unfinished. Cars passed. People stared. Her wedding day had just turned into public humiliation. And that was only the beginning. Because what Sergeant Harold Whitman did not know was that the camera never stopped recording. And neither did the witnesses who were about to speak up. And within 48 hours, the entire city of Oakridge would know exactly what happened inside Golden Touch Studio. The city had no idea how expensive that moment was about to become. By midnight, the video had over 2 million views. By sunrise, the mayor's office stopped answering calls. And by the end of the week, Sergeant Harold Whitman's name was no longer spoken with respect. It was spoken with anger. The bridesmaid who recorded everything was named Tiana Rowe. She did not sleep that night. She posted the video at 6:42 p.m., just hours after the wedding ceremony finally happened at a different location. The caption was simple. Police surgeon forces black bride out of Salon on her wedding day. No long speech. No dramatic music. Just raw footage. The video showed Naomi standing calmly. It showed Clara holding receipts. It showed Whitman saying, "You people always have receipts." It showed him muttering, "I've dealt with your kind before." Those words spread like fire. Local news picked it up first. Then national outlets. Then bloggers. Then civil rights groups. Oakridge was not a large city. It had about 140,000 people. It had always claimed to be diverse and welcoming. But older residents knew the truth. There had been tension for years. Complaints, stories. Rumors about officers who crossed lines but were never disciplined. Now there was proof. The morning after the wedding, Naomi sat at her kitchen table in silence. Her husband, David Ellis, held her hand. The wedding had gone forward. It was beautiful. But something inside her had changed. I felt small, she said quietly. On the happiest day of my life. David squeezed her hand. You did nothing wrong. Her phone would not stop ringing. Reporters, activists, strangers offering support, strangers sending hate. One message stood out. It was from an attorney named Gloria Bennett. I saw the video. The message read, "You have a case. A strong one, if you're ready to fight." Naomi hesitated. She did not want attention. She did not want headlines. She wanted peace. But then she remembered the words. You're kind. She called Gloria. Gloria Bennett was sharp, calm, experienced. She had sued police departments before. She did not raise her voice. She did not promise miracles. She simply laid out facts. Sergeant Whitman had no legal grounds to remove you, she said. No complaint was filed. No trespassing warning was issued before he arrived. No disturbance occurred. Naomi listened carefully. Gloria continued, this is about racial discrimination, abuse of power, emotional distress, public humiliation. Naomi swallowed hard. What if they deny everything? They will, Gloria replied. But the video doesn't. Meanwhile, across town, Sergeant Whitman sat in the police station conference room. Internal Affairs had already called him in. Captain Elliot Granger sat across from him. Did you say those words? Granger asked, pointing to a printed transcript. Whitman leaned back. They're twisting context. Did you say them? Whitman's jaw tightened. I was maintaining order. Granger's eyes narrowed. That's not what I asked. Whitman crossed his arms. You know how these situations go. Business is call. We respond. Granger tapped the table. The salon owner says she never called. Whitman paused. She must have changed her story. She says she never called. Granger repeated slowly. Silence filled the room. Outside the station, protesters began gathering by afternoon, small at first, then larger. Justice for Naomi. No more abuse. Signs were raised. Cameras rolled. The mayor, Thomas Ridley, released a short statement. We are reviewing the incident and take allegations seriously. It sounded empty. By evening, sponsors began pulling donations from city events. A bridal magazine contacted Naomi asking for an interview. Civil rights organizations requested meetings. But Naomi did not rush. She met Gloria in a quiet office the next morning. What happens if we sue? Naomi asked. Gloria folded her hands. We file a federal civil rights lawsuit against the city of Oakridge and Sergeant Whitman personally. We'd argue violation of your 14th Amendment rights, equal protection under the law. Naomi took a deep breath. And if we win? Gloria looked directly at her. They pay. Naomi did not smile. This isn't about money, she said. I know, Gloria replied, but money is how the system admits it was wrong. 3 days later, the lawsuit was filed. The number shocked everyone. $28.4 million. Reporters gasped when they heard it. Why that number? Gloria explained at a press conference. This amount reflects emotional distress, reputational harm, racial discrimination, and punitive damages meant to send a message. Whitman watched the press conference from home. He had been placed on administrative leave. His phone buzzed constantly. Some messages supported him. Others threatened him. He turned off the TV. They're painting me like a monster, he muttered. But the video kept playing on every channel, and new witnesses began speaking. A woman who had been in the lobby that day said she heard Whitman say, "These people always think rules don't apply." Another customer confirmed there was no disturbance. Even one of the backup officers quietly told Internal Affairs that Naomi was calm the entire time. The pressure grew heavier. The police union stepped in, defending Whitman publicly. This is a misunderstanding blown out of proportion, the union president said. But the city's legal department knew something serious was coming. They reviewed the footage frame by frame. No threat. No crime. No reason. Just power used wrongly. Behind closed doors, city officials began calculating risk. If this went to trial, it would be public. Every word. Every past complaint against Whitman. Every pattern. And there were past complaints. 3 prior allegations of biased conduct. None had led to discipline. Now those files were reopened. Naomi stayed mostly quiet during this time. She returned to work at the school. Students hugged her. Parents thanked her. One little girl handed her a note. You looked brave, it said. Naomi cried that night, but she did not back down, because something bigger was forming. Something Whitman never expected. The case was not just about one bride anymore. It was about how power treats people when cameras are not supposed to be watching. And as the court date approached, one question hung over Oakridge. Would the city fight? Or would it fold? The courthouse in Oakridge was packed, every seat filled, people standing along the walls. Cameras lined the aisles, news crews from every major network, civil rights activists, local residents, even strangers from out of state. Everyone wanted to see justice unfold. Naomi Ellis walked in quietly, her husband, David Ellis, by her side. Gloria Bennett held a thick folder of evidence. Naomi's hands shook slightly, but her chin stayed high. She had rehearsed the moment in her mind hundreds of times, but nothing prepared her for the sheer intensity of the room. Across the room sat Sergeant Harold Whitman, his chest puffed, his eyes scanning the crowd. He wore his uniform, perfectly pressed. But it no longer carried authority, it carried fear. Judge Helen Crawford, a stern woman known for no-nonsense rulings, entered. Everyone rose. The first day of the trial was a media frenzy. The video played on a large screen in front of the jury. Every movement, every word. Whitman froze when he heard himself say, "You people always have receipts." He tried to lean back, shrink into his chair, but the words echoed through the courtroom. Gloria Bennett approached the jury calmly. She did not shout. She did not overreact. She let the video speak. "This is not about receipts," she said, her voice firm. "This is about power used to intimidate. A black bride on her wedding day, humiliated in front of friends and family. And why? Because of the color of her skin." A murmur ran through the courtroom. Whitman's lawyer tried to intervene. "Objection. That's inflammatory." Judge Crawford shook her head. "Overruled. The video is evidence. Let it speak." The testimonies began. Clara Benson, the salon owner, described the day. Her voice quivered as she recounted Whitman ignoring receipts, ignoring her explanations. "I've never seen anything like it," she said. I thought Miguel was missing something, but I wasn't. He was wrong. Naomi did nothing wrong." Taylor Rowe, the bridesmaid, testified next. She described the tension, the fear in Naomi's eyes. She held up her phone showing the video. The jury leaned forward. Even one of the backup officers quietly told the court that Naomi was calm the entire time. His words carried weight. She did exactly what anyone would do. She followed instructions, but she had the right to stay. The defense tried to paint Naomi as difficult, overreacting. They hinted at a misunderstanding. Whitman himself was called to testify. His voice was stiff. "I was maintaining order," he said. "I received a complaint about Ms. Ellis. I was doing my job." Gloria's cross-examination was surgical. "You called her your kind, correct?" "Yes," Whitman muttered. "Your kind," Gloria repeated slowly. "Was that because of her race?" Whitman hesitated. I mean, it was a comment about behavior." Gloria leaned in. "You do realize, sir, that is exactly the kind of language that has hurt countless people for centuries. And that day he chose to use it against the bride." The jury shifted uncomfortably. Whitman's lips pressed into a thin line. Witness after witness testified, each adding pieces to the story. Emotional distress, public humiliation, lost opportunities. Naomi described how she cried in her bedroom, how she feared leaving her house, how every memory of her wedding day was tainted. Even the city's own risk management report confirmed Whitman had a history of racial complaints. 3 previous incidents, all quietly settled or ignored. The courtroom tension reached its peak when Gloria called Naomi to describe the words Whitman had said to her privately on the sidewalk. "You should be grateful we're not charging you for fraud," Naomi said softly but clearly, staring directly at the jury. The room went silent. The defense tried to shift focus, suggesting she was exaggerating. But witnesses backed her up. Every detail matched the video. Every threat, every word, every cold gesture. By the third day, the city's legal team looked nervous. They had hoped Whitman's history would remain hidden, but emails, reports, and witness statements were undeniable. Outside, the streets were filled with supporters. Signs read, "Justice for Naomi Ellis. No more abuse of power. Black Lives Matter." Even in Oakridge. On the 4th day, the judge allowed a psychologist to testify. Naomi's emotional trauma was assessed. Panic attacks, insomnia, fear of public spaces. Her life has been permanently affected, the psychologist stated plainly. Whitman's lawyer argued the damages were exaggerated. Laurie countered with meticulous documentation, therapy bills, missed work, wedding costs, emotional counseling for her bridesmaids who witnessed the event. Finally, the jury began deliberations. 3 hours stretched into 6. The tension was unbearable. Outside, cameras captured every minute. News anchors speculated. Social media exploded. When the jury returned, the courtroom held its breath. Judge Crawford called for silence. The 4-person stood. "We find in favor of the plaintiff," they said. A hush fell. Total damages awarded $28,400,000. The number rang like a bell. Reporters gasped. Naomi closed her eyes, exhaling deeply. David held her tightly. Tiana cried quietly. Clara smiled through tears. Whitman stared blankly, his face pale. The reality hit. Decades of power, authority, and pride collapsed in an instant. The city released a statement later that day. "We acknowledge the jury's decision and apologize to Ms. Naomi Ellis. Steps will be taken to ensure this does not happen again." But for Naomi, the victory was bittersweet. No amount of money could erase the humiliation of that day. No apology could undo the fear, the anxiety, the public shaming. Yet she knew something profound had changed. Oakridge, for the first time, had been forced to see what abuse of power looked like. For the first time, one woman's courage forced accountability. And the story didn't end in the courtroom, because the media attention sparked a wider investigation. Other residents came forward with their stories. The city promised reforms. Policies on police conduct were rewritten. Sergeant Whitman was suspended indefinitely, facing possible criminal charges. Naomi Ellis became a symbol, a reminder, a warning that the system could be challenged and won. And as she stepped out of the courthouse that day, sunlight streaming over her, she felt a quiet satisfaction. Justice had been done, not just for her, but for everyone who had ever been told Your kind doesn't belong here. The morning after the verdict, Oakridge felt different. It wasn't just the shock of $28.4 million. It was the knowledge that one black woman had stood her ground and exposed abuse of power in a city that had long ignored it. Naomi Ellis walked through the courthouse doors, flanked by her husband David and attorney Gloria Bennett. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and social media lit up with her name trending worldwide. Naomi had never asked to be a public figure. She wanted a quiet life, a normal job, a wedding day she could remember fondly. But circumstances had chosen differently, and she embraced it, not for fame, but for justice. The day after the trial, the city held a press conference. Mayor Thomas Ridley appeared in front of the cameras, flanked by city council members and police officials. His statement was cautious, deliberate. We respect the jury's decision. We sincerely apologize to Ms. Naomi Ellis for the events that took place. Oakridge is committed to reviewing police conduct policies and implementing measures to prevent this from ever happening again. While the words sounded polished, Naomi wasn't naive. She knew that behind them lay politics, bureaucracy, and fear of public backlash. But change had started. It had begun because she refused to be silenced. Inside the police department, Sergeant Harold Whitman faced internal investigations, suspension, and public scrutiny. Officers who once nodded to his authority now avoided his gaze. The union tried to defend him, claiming misunderstanding, but 3 prior complaints now resurfaced in the media, creating a scandal too large to ignore. Whitman's reputation was shattered. Meanwhile, Naomi focused on her personal life. She returned to her work as a high school counselor, but with a renewed sense of purpose. Students and parents greeted her with admiration, some even sharing their own experiences of discrimination. She began speaking at local schools about self-respect, courage, and the importance of standing up for your rights. Gloria Bennett became more than just her attorney. She became a mentor and a trusted ally. The two worked together to create workshops for residents, educating people about civil rights, racial discrimination, and the legal recourse available to victims of abuse. The lawsuit settlement allowed Naomi to fund scholarships for young black women pursuing higher education, something she had always dreamed of doing. Not everyone was happy with Naomi's victory. Some residents criticized her for making a scene or suing the city. Online trolls mocked her. Some tried to minimize her experience. But Naomi had learned not to let the noise define her. She had faced humiliation and racism on the worst day of her life, and she had survived. She had turned pain into empowerment. One quiet afternoon, Naomi visited Golden Touch Studio. Clara Benson welcomed her warmly, tears in her eyes. "You changed everything," Clara said. "Not just for you, for everyone who walks through that door now." Naomi smiled. "I just wanted to be treated like anyone else," she said. "But maybe that's enough to start change." The salon hung a plaque in Naomi's honor, for standing up for justice and equality. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't for fame, but every client who entered the salon saw it. Every employee knew the story, and the city slowly began to realize the ripple effect of one woman's courage. In the months that followed, Oakridge implemented strict new policies regarding police interactions with civilians, mandatory bias training, clear reporting structures, oversight committees. Officers could no longer ignore complaints or assume immunity. Naomi's case became a training example, a benchmark for accountability. Even Sergeant Whitman faced consequences. He was demoted, stripped of certain duties, and required to undergo extensive training before reinstatement. For him, the verdict was more than financial. It was a public mark of shame, a permanent reminder that misuse of power has consequences. For Naomi, the $28.4 million settlement provided security and opportunities, but it wasn't the money that mattered most. It was the truth that had finally been acknowledged. It was the validation of her dignity, her identity, her life. Looking back, Naomi reflected on that day in the salon. The humiliation, the fear, the anger. It had all felt unbearable, but it had led her here, to justice, to a city forced to confront its failures, to a life where she could use her experience to lift others. Her wedding day remained a memory mixed with pain and triumph. She had walked out of that salon embarrassed and hurt, but she had walked into the courthouse empowered and unshakable. She had changed the course of a city's history in one act of courage. And sometimes when Naomi looked in the mirror, she still saw that bride. The woman in white silk, standing tall despite fear, refusing to be erased. She smiled because she knew that standing up for yourself, even in the face of injustice, was the truest form of victory. Her story became a symbol across Oakridge and beyond, that no one is too small, no day too ordinary, no injustice too minor to fight, and that even the most humiliating moment can become a catalyst for change. Justice had been served, and for Naomi Ellis, it had been life-changing, powerful, and unforgettable.